a man was able to transform Rome from a republic devastated by war into an empire that would shape the world for centuries. His name? Augustus. Did you know he was the architect of an unprecedented era of stability and progress known as the Pax Romana? His leadership not only pacified a fragmented nation, but also laid the groundwork for a political system that would echo through generations. But how did a young heir of Julius Caesar manage to consolidate such power? How did he navigate through betrayals, battles, and crises to establish the greatest empire of antiquity? In this video, we will explore the secrets of Augustus, from his boldest political strategies to visionary reforms that defined history. Get ready to embark on a fascinating journey. Discover how he used unlikely alliances, manipulated narratives, and built a Rome that would become the center of the civilized world. Are you ready to understand how this extraordinary man shaped the destiny of Rome and in turn humanity? Stay until the end because this story is just beginning. Octavian was not just Julius Caesar's young heir. He was a natural strategist, capable of turning Rome's fragmentation into an opportunity for rise. After Caesar's death, he faced a volatile political scene, full of betrayals and conflicting ambitions. With intelligence, Octavian built temporary alliances, such as the famous Second Triumvirate with Mark Antony and Lepidus. But he knew that these partnerships were merely a means to a greater end: total control of Rome. Rome was devastated by years of civil wars, and the population longed for stability. Octavian knew how to exploit this desire, using Caesar's memory as a symbol of legitimacy and hope. He combined cunning and patience to undermine his rivals while presenting to the Senate and the people an image of a young man determined to restore order. When the time came to break away from Mark Antony, Octavian was prepared to emerge as the savior that Rome needed. The title Augustus was more than just a name change. It was a historical milestone. By adopting it, Octavian symbolized the start of a new era. He was no longer just a victorious general. He was the leader who would unify Rome under a promise of lasting peace. By combining propaganda, reforms, and a clear vision of power, Augustus transformed a fragmented republic into a solid empire. But consolidating power was just the beginning. His greatest test would be to end the civil wars and bring stability to his new Rome, as we will see next. The Battle of Actium was more than a military confrontation. It was the event that defined the fate of Rome and the rise of Octavian as Augustus. In a brilliant strategic move, Octavian chose the ideal location for the battle, a naval position that gave him the advantage over Mark Antony and Cleopatra. The conflict was not just a matter of military strength, but of intelligence and tactical planning. When the dust settled, Mark Antony and Cleopatra were defeated, and Octavian emerged as the uncontested leader. The victory at Actium was not only about eliminating rivals, it symbolized the reunification of a fragmented empire. With Mark Antony and Cleopatra off the scene, Octavian consolidated his power by transforming Egypt into the wealthiest province of Rome. This guaranteed not only resources but also legitimacy for his government. Furthermore, he used the narrative of the battle to present himself as the savior of Rome, someone capable of bringing peace and stability after decades of chaos. The impact of the victory echoed throughout the empire. Octavian used propaganda to immortalize Actium as a triumph of the Roman people over corruption and betrayal. He eliminated any remaining opposition and united the people around his leadership. However, he knew that winning battles was not enough. To ensure lasting peace, he would need to reorganize the political structure of Rome and strategically consolidate his authority. And that is exactly what he began to do, as we will explore in the next topic. When Octavian became Augustus, he knew he could not simply impose an authoritarian regime without facing resistance. Instead, he adopted the title of princeps, or first citizen. This strategic choice masked his absolute power while maintaining the appearance of republican continuity. Thus, Augustus won over both the Senate and the Roman people, presenting himself as a modest leader committed to the traditional values of Rome. The title allowed Augustus to centralize power without generating revolts. He kept the Senate active, but under his influence, controlling strategic provinces and the armed forces. This approach of governing through the shadows consolidated his authority, ensuring that he was seen as a protector of the Republic rather than a dictator. His apparent modesty was a political maneuver that not only secured the loyalty of the Senate but also minimized potential conspiracies. By assuming the position of princeps, Augustus differentiated himself from previous rulers, avoiding the stigma of tyranny. His discreet leadership allowed him to implement profound changes, shaping the political and social foundation of the Roman Empire. But he knew that to sustain his position, he needed a solid political base. And this base began at the heart of Rome, the Senate, as we will see next. Augustus understood the importance of the Senate, both as a symbol of stability and as a potential source of opposition. Rather than eliminating it, he reformed it, creating a more functional and loyal body. To do this, he expelled corrupt and inefficient members while establishing stricter criteria for entry. These changes revitalized the institution, strengthening its credibility and allowing the Senate to become an ally rather than an enemy. Augustus's reforms went beyond a mere cleanup. He redefined the responsibilities of the senators, directly linking them to the administration of the empire. This not only increased the efficiency of the government, but also ensured that Augustus's interests were represented at all levels. The reorganization was carefully presented as a restoration of traditional Roman values, reducing resistance to these changes. With the Senate under control and integrated into his regime, Augustus solidified one of the main bases of his authority. However, he knew that political stability needed to be accompanied by military security. Therefore, he turned to reforming the armed forces, ensuring that his leadership was protected against internal and external threats, as we will see in the next topic. The military power of Rome was both a tool of power and a risk for any ruler. Augustus faced this challenge by reducing the number of legions, creating a smaller yet highly professionalized army. This decision not only saved resources but also increased control over the soldiers, preventing insubordination. He also created the Praetorian Guard, an elite force dedicated to his personal protection, reinforcing his security. In addition to professionalizing the army, Augustus implemented a pension system for veterans, increasing their loyalty to the government. These reforms not only reduced the risk of rebellions, but also ensured a more motivated and efficient army. With this reformed force, Augustus consolidated the empire's borders and protected the most vulnerable regions against external invasions. Augustus knew that an efficient army was only part of the equation. To sustain territorial control and avoid crises, it was necessary to create a centralized and reliable administration. Thus, he implemented a series of administrative reforms that would strategically reorganize the empire, as we will explore next. One of Augustus's greatest innovations was the administrative reorganization of the empire. He divided the provinces into senatorial and imperial, maintaining direct control over militarily strategic regions and delegating peaceful provinces to the Senate. This division not only brought efficiency, but also reduced political tensions, ensuring that his power was exercised in a balanced way. Augustus carefully chose governors to manage the imperial provinces, ensuring that they were loyal to his regime. Moreover, he created oversight mechanisms, such as regular reports and inspections to prevent abuses of power and corruption. These measures ensured that the administration functioned like a well-oiled machine, reinforcing the emperor's centralized, controlled. Another landmark was the fiscal reform, which standardized tax collection throughout the empire. This not only increased revenue but also promoted fairness and efficiency in the tax system. With the administration reorganized and the provinces functioning in an integrated manner, Augustus prepared the ground for economic growth and prosperity that would mark his reign, as we will explore in the next topic. The economy of Rome was in ruins after decades of civil wars, and Augustus knew that political stability depended on a solid economic recovery. He invested in infrastructure, improving transportation routes such as roads and ports, which facilitated trade and better connected the provinces. The flow of goods significantly increased, strengthening both internal and external trade. Another pillar of his reforms was the stabilization of the monetary system. Augustus standardized the coins throughout the empire, promoting trust in commerce and facilitating transactions between distant regions. This economic unification helped integrate the diverse parts of the empire culturally and economically. Under his command, the economy of Rome transitioned from a state of collapse to an era of abundance. Additionally, Augustus encouraged agricultural development by distributing land to veterans and promoting innovations in farming. These policies increased food production, reducing hunger and strengthening social stability. With the economy restored, Augustus knew that the people needed something more than material prosperity to unify them, an inspiring image that symbolized his leadership. This would be achieved through his imperial propaganda, as we will see next. Augustus understood that power depended not only on reforms and conquests but also on public perception. He utilized propaganda to shape his image as the savior of Rome. Monuments like the Arapacis celebrated the peace achieved under his rule, while coins and statues spread his likeness throughout the empire, consolidating his presence in the minds of the Roman people. Literature was another powerful tool in his propaganda campaign. Poets like Virgil and Horace exalted Augustus as a leader chosen by the gods, destined to restore order and prosperity to Rome. This narrative not only reinforced his legitimacy, but also elevated him to the status of a near-divine figure, creating an emotional bond with the people. Furthermore, Augustus used public events such as games and celebrations to reinforce his image as a protector of the people and Roman culture. Imperial propaganda was essential to consolidating his power, but Augustus knew that to ensure the future of the empire, investments in infrastructure were necessary. Roads, aqueducts, and monuments would be the next key pieces of his strategy, as we will explore in the next section. During Augustus's reign, Rome witnessed a revolution in infrastructure, with projects that transformed the city and connected the empire. The expansion of the road network was one of the greatest achievements of his administration. Known as Roman roads, these routes facilitated the movement of troops, goods, and information, integrating distant provinces and strengthening internal trade. These roads became vital arteries for the functioning of the empire. The aqueducts in turn brought drinking water to major cities, including Rome. Augustus oversaw the construction and restoration of water systems that ensured a constant supply of water, improving the quality of life for millions of citizens. These works not only addressed practical issues but also symbolized the superiority of Roman engineering and Augustus's long-term vision as a ruler. In addition to utilitarian constructions, Augustus invested in grand monuments such as the Temple of Mars Altar, which celebrated his military victories. He also restored ancient temples, creating a connection between his reign and the traditional values of Rome. These projects exalted the grandeur of Rome and reinforced his image as a leader who promoted both progress and respect for traditions. However, to consolidate this unity, Augustus knew he needed something more: the power of religion, as we will see in the next section. Augustus recognized the role of religion as a powerful tool for uniting the empire and consolidating his authority. He introduced the imperial cult, in which the emperor was revered as an intermediary between the gods and men. This practice began in the eastern provinces, where the veneration of rulers was already common and was gradually incorporated throughout the rest of the empire, creating a unified religious identity. The construction of temples dedicated to the imperial cult was one of the pillars of this strategy. These temples not only glorified Augustus, but also served as centers for community integration. Festivals and religious ceremonies associated with the cult reinforced the idea that Rome's destiny was linked to the almost divine figure of the emperor, promoting loyalty across all provinces. The imperial cult also played a practical role in the administration of the empire, helping to unify various religious traditions and minimize cultural conflicts. Religion, aligned with the state's interests, transformed Augustus into a central figure in the lives of the Romans. However, he knew that the strength of an empire also depended on solid social values, and it was through his moral reforms that he sought to restore the cohesion of Rome, as we will see next. Augustus believed that moral decline was among the causes of the instability that plagued Rome before his rise. Determined to restore traditional values, he introduced a series of reforms that encouraged marriage, childbirth, and marital fidelity. Among the most notable measures were severe penalties for adultery and tax incentives for large families. These laws reinforced the importance of family unity as the foundation of Roman society. In addition to legislation, Augustus utilized culture as a tool to promote these values. He sponsored literary works, such as Virgil's Aeneid, which exalted virtues like simplicity, loyalty, and civic duty. This cultural effort complemented his legal reforms, creating a movement of moral revitalization that permeated all aspects of Roman life. Augustus also sought to revalue agricultural life, promoting a return to the countryside as a symbol of purity and virtue. This emphasis on traditional values strengthened Roman identity and helped consolidate the bond between the emperor and his people. With morality restored and society more stable, Augustus was ready to lead Rome into an era of unprecedented prosperity, the Pax Romana, as we will see in the next section. The Pax Romana, initiated under Augustus's reign, was a milestone in the history of the empire, symbolizing 2 centuries of relative peace and stability. Under Augustus's leadership, Rome consolidated its borders, avoided unnecessary wars, and promoted economic growth. Institutional and military reforms created the foundations for this era of tranquility, benefiting both the center and the provinces of the empire. With borders safeguarded by a professional army, trade flourished, connecting distant regions such as Egypt, Gaul, and Asia Minor. Land and sea routes allowed the flow of goods, culture, and ideas, transforming Rome into a true center of innovation. This economic integration was accompanied by efficient administration, which brought security and confidence to citizens. Moreover, Augustus demonstrated diplomatic skill by avoiding unnecessary conflicts, preferring to consolidate strategic alliances. He transformed Rome into a model of stability, where peace was not merely the absence of war, but a period of political, economic, and cultural progress. However, ensuring the continuity of this system required a careful plan for succession, as we will see in the next section. Augustus knew that the greatest challenge for the stability of Rome would be the time of his succession. Therefore, he began early to prepare Tiberius, his chosen successor, to take control without disrupting the order. The transition was made gradually, with Augustus granting Tiberius equivalent powers and involving him in administrative and military decisions. This process prepared the Senate and the people to accept the new ruler. To reinforce Tiberius's legitimacy, Augustus used propaganda, presenting him as the guardian of the values and achievements of his government. He also emphasized the continuity of the Julio-Claudian dynasty, aligning Tiberius's figure with the legacy of the Pax Romana. This meticulous preparation avoided immediate political crises after his death, ensuring the longevity of the empire. The choice of Tiberius marked the beginning of a succession system that, although imperfect, brought relative stability to imperial governance. However, Augustus also knew that foreign policy was essential to maintaining the balance of the empire, as we will explore in the next section. Augustus was a pioneer in adopting a diplomatic approach to Rome's foreign policy. He prioritized the consolidation of borders instead of aggressive expansion, creating natural barriers such as the Rhine and Danube rivers to protect Roman territory. This strategy saved resources and strengthened control over the empire's most vulnerable regions. A brilliant example of his diplomacy was the agreement with the Parthian Empire, which resulted in the return of Roman standards captured decades earlier. This triumph, achieved without bloodshed, increased his prestige and demonstrated the strength of his strategic approach. Additionally, he established relations with local leaders, ensuring their cooperation through economic and cultural incentives. Augustus's diplomacy established a governance model that prioritized peace and stability, preparing the empire to face future challenges. However, the true impact of his rule lies in his enduring legacy, as we will explore in the next section. Augustus's legacy is a testament to his strategic vision and political skill. His reforms laid the foundations for one of the greatest empires in history, shaping the political, economic, and military institutions of Rome for centuries. He transformed a chaotic republic into a stable and prosperous empire, ensuring its longevity even after his death. Culturally, Augustus left a profound mark. Under his leadership, Rome experienced an artistic and literary renaissance, with monuments such as the Forum of Augustus and the Arapacis symbolizing the greatness of the empire. He elevated Rome to a level of splendor that would influence future civilizations. More than any other ruler, Augustus personified the balance between absolute power and strategic diplomacy. His leadership is remembered as a model of visionary governance, whose impact is still felt today. Augustus's trajectory is a true example of visionary leadership and impeccable political strategy. He transformed a fragmented republic, ravaged by civil wars, into a stable, prosperous, and culturally vibrant empire. His ability to unite military power, institutional reforms, and an inspiring public narrative not only secured the survival of Rome, but also shaped the ancient world in ways that still resonate today. Augustus was not only the first emperor of Rome, he was the architect of a governance model that would sustain the empire for centuries. From the creation of the Pax Romana to innovations in infrastructure, he built the pillars of a civilization that would be remembered as one of the most influential in human history. His skill in balancing tradition and progress continues to be studied and admired by historians and modern leaders. Now it's your turn. What part of Augustus's story caught your attention the most? Was it his brilliant diplomacy, his structural reforms, or his ability to use propaganda to consolidate power? Leave your comment down below. We would love to hear your opinion. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to continue exploring the stories that shaped the world. And check out the next video that will appear for you. It's not to be missed.